नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्स नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्स नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्स. So welcome to you all, and today we are going to continue the comparison between the religion and Dhamma. And we have seen in the previous class that how the purpose of the religion and purpose of Dhamma both are different. And as Baba Sahib Ambedkar summarized in the last verse of the subsection 3, the purpose of religion is to explain the origin of the world. The purpose of Dhamma is to reconstruct the world. So we have seen that how Baba Sahib Ambedkar has clarified for us that what is lacking in religion and how Dhamma and the scope of the Dhamma and the content of the Dhamma is remarkably different from the so-called religions. And today we are going to look at the exploration that Baba Sahib Ambedkar has done further. So we are going to cover today the remaining three subsections, which are titled as morality and religion. That is going to be our upcoming topic, and then followed by Dhamma and morality. And in the sixth and the last of this section is mere morality is not enough. It must be sacred and universal. So this particular three sections or subsections are very important for all of us to understand, because they go right into what constitutes a Dhamma and why Dhamma is necessary for the human beings, not just for us, but for all human beings. And the kind of material arrangement that Baba Sahib Ambedkar has done here in this section is very thought provocative. And if we can analyze it deeply, understand it deeply, it can yield a great amount of knowledge for us. So let's begin with morality and religion. So Baba Sahib Ambedkar begins with what is the place of morality in religion. So when he talks about religion, he talks about all the religions and all theistic, whatever nature of the religion there is. So what is the place of morality in religion? So as a matter of truth, morality has no place in religion, because we have seen that the content of religion is God, soul, how one can go to the realm of heaven. And if we take it further, how to follow certain prophets, how to believe in their books, which are sacred, and that's the content matter of religion. And as Baba Sahib says, as a matter of truth, morality has no place in religion. The content of religion, as Baba Sahib says, consists of God, soul, prayers, worship, rituals, ceremonies, and sacrifices. So we know that that is what all goes on in the name of religion. That there is a God, there is a soul, prayers, worship, rituals, ceremonies, and sacrifices. So when does the morality comes into play in the religion? Morality comes in only wherein man comes in relation to man. Okay, so whenever there are two human beings, the morality comes into being. So morality comes in to the religion as a side wind to maintain peace and order. So that is the place of morality and any religion is just to is a side of a side wind, is not the subject matter or the crux of the religious affairs or the religious matters. And we can see that in the world, that how the religions talk about the rituals, ceremonies, beliefs, gods, worship, so on and so forth, but they don't talk about what is called the morality. So morality comes into religion as a side wind to maintain peace and order. Religion is a triangular piece. Very interesting concept, that religion is a triangular piece. How does it's a how we can say that a religion is a triangular piece? Because there is a God, and there is a human being, and there is another human being. So now Baba Ambedkar goes on explaining in the verse number 7, what does it mean by religion as a triangular piece. Be good to your neighbor because you both are both children of God. Because both of you are children of God, be good to your neighbor. That's the place of morality in any religion. Every religion preaches morality, but morality is not the root of religion. So you see, all the religions that you study, there is some form of morality. Like in Christianity, there is a 10 commandments and so on and so forth. But they are not the root of religion. So morality is not the root of religion. It's a wagon that is attached to it. And it is attached and detached as the occasion requires. The action of morality in the functioning of religion is therefore casual and occasional. Morality in religion is therefore not effective. You see what kind of the conclusion that Baba Ambedkar has drawn from this discussion is this, that morality is a subsidiary, is a casual and occasional piece in the scheme of religion. And if we can follow this argument about morality and religion, we know that the morality doesn't form the essential or the root of religions, because we have seen that the religion has altogether a different domain, such as consists of God, soul, prayers, worship, rituals, ceremonies, and sacrifices. Now, compared to Dhamma and morality, and this is a very interesting discussion that Baba Ambedkar had here. What is the place of morality in Dhamma? The simple answer is, very simple answer that Baba Ambedkar has given here is, morality is Dhamma and Dhamma is morality. You see, as we have seen in the previous sections, previous subsection of this part, very interestingly, Baba Ambedkar says that morality is not the root of the religion. It's casual and occasional. Okay, and it's a triangular piece, like God and man. And be good to your neighbor because you are both children of God. So that's the concept of morality, a triangular piece.
I have a
While when we look at what we can call about say about Dhamma, in the very second verse of this subsection, Baba Ambedkar has given a very simple answer. What is the connection between morality and Dhamma? And Baba Ambedkar says morality is Dhamma and Dhamma is morality. It's very sort of a succinct and clear definition. Morality is Dhamma, Dhamma is morality. In other words, in Dhamma, morality takes the place of God, although there is no God in Dhamma. So you see, the root of the Buddha's Dhamma is morality. The essence of the Buddha's Dhamma is morality. The purpose of the Buddha's Dhamma is morality. Because as Baba Ambedkar has defined it very succinctly and very clearly, is Dhamma is morality and morality is Dhamma. And the verse number 4 goes into what is not Dhamma. In Dhamma, there is no place for prayers. As we know that you cannot pray to the Buddha that, do this to me and this will happen to me. There is no place for prayers. There is no place for pilgrimage, that I visit a certain place and I would gain certain merits. No place for pilgrimage. Now we will say that in Mahaparinirvana Sutta, the Buddha has recommended that we should visit 4 of the places associated with his life. This is like creating the Shraddha in the teacher. But even if we don't visit these places, it has nothing to do with our enlightenment, because a lot of people in China, Japan, who were enlightened, they never had a chance to visit these sacred places. But if we visit, it's good, well and good. If we don't visit, it's also fine. Rituals, we Buddhists have rituals, but they are not like centerpiece of our Dhamma, ceremonies or sacrifices. Morality is the essence of Dhamma. Without it, there is no Dhamma. we cannot say that about religion. If you remove religion, morality from the religion, they still survive because they are based on the belief system. They are based on what is called the rituals, the ceremonies, and pilgrimage and whatnot. While the Dhamma, if we remove the morality from Dhamma, because without there is no Dhamma. Morality in Dhamma arises from the direct necessity for man to love man. To love other human being is necessary. Is our need to love other human being, isn't it? Because we cannot, if we do not have, every human being has some kind of love in them. Even if we are the worst human beings in the world, maybe, even then we have some kind of sense of love for other, some human being, whether mother, father, or friends or whatever. There cannot be a human being without having some love for somebody, because it's our need, it's a necessity for us to love other human beings. We cannot just be cut off from other human beings. And in Dhamma, it does not require the sanction of God. It doesn't require a sanction of God. It is not to please God that man has to be moral. It is for his own good that man has to love man. You see this two phrases here, that morality in Dhamma arises from the direct necessity for man to love man. It's a direct need for one human being to love another human being, and it's for our own good that man has to love man. So it's necessary, and it's for the good that we should cultivate the love for the other human beings. And I think this more or less summarizes the essence of the Dhamma. And what is it? It's the morality is the essence of the Dhamma. And because morality is the essence of Dhamma, why morality in Dhamma arises? Because it's our direct need to love other human beings. Every human being has a direct need to love other human beings, and it's for our own good that we should love other human beings. So morality is a necessity for a society, and morality is good for the society. I think if we understand these 2 points, then we can say that Dhamma is the need for the human society. Not only that, but Dhamma is good for the human society. So the subsection number 6, as we are going to look into that, is more a sort of a clear and deeper exploration of morality. And it's titled as Mere Morality is Not Enough. You see, because we have seen that morality is a need of human society. We have a need to love other human beings, and it does good to oneself if we love other human beings. But morality is not enough. Mere morality is not enough. And this is what is the beauty of the presentation of the understanding of Baba Ambedkar. He goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the Buddha's teachings. And he makes us see that why we should practice certain things, as to why we need to bring radical changes in our lives. Why do we do that? And you see, this sentence is so important. Mere morality is not enough. It must be sacred and universal. So morality must be sacred. And not only that, it must be universal. So Baba Ambedkar qualifies the morality in terms of sacred and universal. And then, like we know that he's a master of all different fields. So he brings all this knowledge together to clarify the teachings for us. So the verse number 1 is very interesting. When is a thing sacred? Why is a thing sacred? So why, when something is sacred, and why it is sacred? In every human society, primitive or advanced, there are some things or beliefs which it regards as sacred and the rest as profane. So we know that we call certain things sacred and certain things profane. Profane is not something not sacred. When a thing or belief has reached the stage of being sacred, it means that it cannot be violated. Indeed, it cannot be touched. It's a taboo. So see, that has been in the human history that once certain thing is regarded as a sacred, then it cannot be violated, it cannot be touched. That's why you see the efforts of the people who believe in the caste system, that they always try to say that it's sacred, it's coming from the God, it cannot be violated, it cannot be touched, because that's a divine sort of the injunction. It is coming from the sacred God, it cannot be violated, it cannot be touched, because it's pavitra. So when a thing or belief has reached the stage of being sacred, it means that it cannot be violated. Indeed, it cannot be touched. It's a taboo. So, there is an anthropological concept of what is called the taboo. Certain things in the certain societies are taboo. They cannot be touched. Contrary to this, a thing or a belief which is profane, a pavitra, that is outside the field of the sacred, may be violated. It means one can act contrary to it without feeling any fear or qualms of conscience. You see, so that's what happens. Because if certain things we treat as not sacred, as a profane or pavitra, then they are outside the domain of sacred and they may be violated. And it means that one can act contrary to it without feeling any fear or qualms of conscience. But for the sacred things, we feel the qualms of conscience. If certain things, certain objects are supposed to be sacred, and if they are violated, then we feel that it's not good. We feel we have fear and we have qualms of conscience. The sacred is something holy. To transgress it is a sacrilege. It's a blasphemy. It's going against something which is sacred. Now, why is the thing made sacred? To confine the scope of the question to the matter in hand, why morality should have been made sacred? So, Baba Ambedkar links this question as why a certain things is made sacred. He said that to answer this question, let's look at this parallel question: why morality should have been made sacred? Why we should make morality a sacred thing? So now we are talking about why morality should be sacred, untouchable, untouched. It should not be touched. It should be, violating it should be a taboo. Going against it should be a taboo. Therefore, the morality in the society must be sacred. Three factors seem to have played their part in making morality sacred. Baba Ambedkar says that there were three factors that have made morality sacred. The first factor is the social need for protecting the best. You see, we have seen in the previous discussion that Baba Ambedkar talks about the survival of the fittest, and there is a fight for people to survive in the world. And Baba Sahib says that the fit doesn't mean the best for the society. Because of the accident of your birth, so you got certain genes in terms of health or whatever. It doesn't mean that if you survive biologically, that doesn't mean that you are best for the society. So biological survival doesn't mean that you are best for the society. So the first factor why morality should be sacred is that there is a social need for protecting the best. Mark it down that there is a need for protecting the best. The background of this question lies embedded in what is called the struggle of existence and the survival of the fittest. We have seen this discussion in the previous sort of classes. The background of this question lies embedded in what is called the struggle for existence and the survival of the fittest. This arises out of the theory of evolution. We know that the theory of evolution has this various species in conflict, and we know that when Darwin was stating his theory, he was not talking about the survival of fittest among the human beings. He was talking about he has never had this racial connotation to the how the human beings evolved. For him, or the human evolution is the same for all the human beings. He's talking about the different species And this arises out of this theory of evolution. It is common knowledge that evolution takes place through a struggle for existence because the means of food supply in early times were so limited. The struggle is bitter. Nature is said to be red in claw and truth. So the nature is violent. We know that in the animal world. We know that in the history of evolution that the nature is said to be red in claw and tooth, isn't it? So the struggle is bitter. In this struggle, which is bitter and bloody, only the fittest survive. Such is the original state of society. We have seen that there has been fightings, there has been groups allied on the tribal lines, and they have been fighting with each other, killing each other. The sense of justice was for eye for eye. If your member of tribe is killed, the member of your tribe is killed, the sense of justice was that we should kill the member of another tribe. That is what was the original state of society, tribal society. In the course of ancient past, someone must have raised the question: is the fittest, the strongest, the best? Would not the weakest, if protected, be ultimately the best for advancing the ends and aims of society? You see, this is the way Baba Ambedkar explains everything. It's so clear, so concise, and so terse that if we reflect on it a little bit, and if we follow his train of thoughts, then we begin to see it very clearly as to why do we need to make morality sacred. Is because is the fittest, the strongest, the best? That's the question. Would not the weakest, if protected, be ultimately the best for advancing the ends and aims of society? The then prevailing state of society seems to have given an answer in the affirmative. The society says, yes, we have to protect the best. Then comes the question, what is the way to protect the weak? Nothing less than to impose some restraints upon the fittest. So there has to be some restraint upon the so-called fittest. In this lies the origin and necessity for morality. This morality has to be sacred because it was imposed originally on the fittest, that is the strongest. This has very serious consequences. First, does morality in becoming social become antisocial? Now, you see, it's very careful line of thinking that we need to follow. It's a very, I would say, subtle sort of the argument that we need to follow. And I'm going to again go through that so that, the things are clarified to us very clearly. So let's first go on and explore what Baba Ambedkar has argued here. So now the morality has become social. So Baba Ambedkar is asking a question because for a society, this kind of morality, the sacredness of the morality is needed. And then the next question that Baba Ambedkar asks, does morality in becoming social become antisocial? It is not that there is no morality among thieves. Even the thieves are known for the morality. Even the thugs are known for the morality within. There is morality among the businessmen. There is a morality among the businessmen. There is morality among the fellow castemen. We know that certain social groups, certain castes in India, they have morality within their group, and there is also morality among the gang of robbers. So you see, there is this morality in certain groups of people. All the groups of people have certain morality. But this morality is marked by isolation and exclusiveness. Now, mark this word. This morality within a particular community, within a band of a certain group, robbers, for example, or thieves, or businessmen, there is this morality, but this is in isolation and exclusiveness. Is marked by isolation and exclusiveness. It is a morality to protect group interest. Follow the argument. There is a morality, but that morality is just to protect the interest of that group. So because the morality is confined to protect the interest of a group, It is therefore antisocial. Because it's the morality is just confined to a certain group, and therefore it's antisocial. It is the isolation and exclusiveness of this kind of morality which throws its antisocial spirit in relief. So because the morality is included and isolated into a certain within certain group, when it comes to play in the society, in the general society, it becomes antisocial. The same is true where a group observes morality because it has interest of its own to protect. And there are certain groups which have morality within their group to protect their own interests. We can take the example of the caste system. There are certain castes, they are deeply bonded with each other. But why they are bonded with each other? Because they want to protect the interest of their group. The result of this group organization of society are far-reaching. If society continues to consist of antisocial groups, society will remain a disorganized and a factional society. It's a very deep concept. If there are antisocial groups, whose morality is limited within their groups, and if the society is consist of so many groups like this, then the society will remain a disorganized and a factional society. It will be a broken society. It will be a disorganized society. The danger of disorganized and factional state of society is that it sets up a number of different models and standards. So very beautiful. If you replace the word group with caste, you begin to see that how it's easy for us to understand this concept of morality and where Baba Ambedkar is, trying to lead us at. So you see, there are different numbers of models and standards for different. You look at the caste system. There are different sets of models and standards for different castes. This is for you. This is for you. This is for you. This is for you. You cannot do this. You cannot do this. You cannot do this. Like, these are different models and different standards for the groups. And as we are exploring parallel theme of caste for different castes. So in the absence of common model and common standards, society cannot be a harmonious whole. You see, if you do not have a common model or a common standard, and that's what we see that the Constitution has tried to do it, to bring in the common model and common standard for the society. If it is not there, then the society cannot be a harmonious whole. It cannot be a harmonious society. If we apply a different standard, different code for certain communities, and for different communities certain codes, then what happens? There can never be a harmonious whole. The society cannot be a harmonious whole. How deep and how pertinent that is today for our country and for the society at large. A society which rests upon the supremacy of one group over another, irrespective of its rational or proportionate claims, inevitably leads to conflict. So that's the source of conflict: the group interest, the group morality, the exclusive and isolated sense of morality is the ultimate source of conflict. That's how the conflict comes into being. How beautifully Baba Ambedkar has built up this argument. A society which rests upon the supremacy of one group over another, irrespective of its rational or proportionate claims, inevitably leads to conflict. The only way to put a stop to conflict is to have common rules of morality which are sacred to all. That's why, Baba Ambedkar talks about constitutional morality. More than constitution, he says that constitutional morality is important. To live by the constitution is important. There is a constitution which can be the best constitution in the world, but if people do not have that morality to abide by the constitution, then even the constitution is useless. It has no use. So the constitutional morality has to be sacred. We cannot violate the constitution. We should not violate that sacred code that gives us the common models and common standards for all the human beings, all the citizens of this country. If we are trying to put different standards and different models for different set of people, then what happens is ultimately it's going to lead to the conflict. The only way to put a stop to conflict is to have common rules of morality which are sacred to all. There is the third factor which requires morality to be made sacred and universal. It is to safeguard the growth of the individual. The individual is not the slave of the society. The individual has got the right to grow, right to utilize their potential fully, to cultivate their minds. Every individual has a right to do that. So what happens? The morality has to be sacred and it has to be universal because it will safeguard the growth of the individual. Let's look into this little bit deeply. Under the struggle for existence or under group rule, the interest of the individual are not safe. You see, people are going through the struggle for existence and trying to protect the group interest. The individual is lost. The interest of the individual is not safe. Either you have to follow the group's standards or you have to involve in this violent struggle for resources. So why the morality has to be universal? Because the group set up prevents an individual from acquiring consistency of mind, which is possible only when the society has common ideals, common models. So consistency of mind. Very interesting that the individual needs to acquire the consistency of mind, which is possible only when society has common ideals, common models. His thoughts are laid astray, and this creates a mind whose seeing unity is forced and distorted. So it's very deep that because we belong to a certain group of people, we have to have that kind of the consistency of mind which is aligned to the group interest, which is aligned to the interest of that group. And therefore we cannot grow as an individual because our minds are aligned to the interest of the groups and our thoughts are laid astray, and this creates a mind whose seeing unity is forced and distorted. So because of this group morality, our mind is compromised. Very deep. Secondly, the group setup leads to discrimination and denial of justice. So we have seen in the case of caste, because if we compare parallelly with the caste system, we see it very clearly even in India today that the group setup leads to discrimination and denial of justice. The group setup leads to stratification of classes. So it gives to a society which is stratified. Those who are masters remain masters, and those who are born in slavery remain slaves. Owners remain owners, and workers remain workers. The privileged remain privileged, and the serfs remain serfs. Now, if we follow these arguments very critically, we know that what Constitution has done for this country, what this Constitution has done for the common man, isn't it? By creating the sacred universal code which is there in our Constitution. This means that there can be liberty for some but not for all. This means that there can be equality for a few but none for the majority. What is the remedy? The only remedy lies in making fraternity universally effective. So unless we make fraternity universally effective, and that was the reason why Buddhism spread all over the places, because for a Buddhist, there is nothing like interest of a group. The Buddhist has to treat other human being from irrespective of the group they come from, irrespective of the nation they come from, irrespective of the language they speak, like themselves. They have to find this fundamental unity between themselves and the others. In other words, they have to transcend these identities. And the Buddha found that the identities are oppressive. They create a lot of suffering. What we call atta. On another level, it's an identity. It's an identification with certain self. It's an identity with certain attribute. It's an identity with certain gender. It's an identity with certain race. It's an identity with certain group, certain culture. That's always going to produce more and more dukkha. So identity is a problem. So what the discussion here entails is that the fraternity should be universally effective. Very profound. And what is fraternity? What is fraternity? So clear, like a mathematical equation. What is fraternity? It is nothing but another name for brotherhood of people, brotherhood of men, which is another name for morality. Which is another name for morality. As I am, so they are. That's it. This is why the Buddha preached that Dhamma is morality and the Dhamma is sacred, so is morality. You see what a sort of clarity, because people always talk about morality. We always talk about morality. But if we don't know what is morality and we don't know, what should it be qualified as, it has to be sacred and universal. We don't understand the implication of what is called the Shila. Now, morality is not just about is not just Panchashil. It goes beyond that. The essence of Panchashil is nothing but metta. So the Dhamma is equal to metta. Metta is equal to the Maitri is so important in Baba Sahib's philosophy, in Baba Sahib's scheme of working. Everywhere he talks about Maitri. And he says that without Maitri, there cannot be democracy. So Maitri has to be sacred and universal. And why it has to be sacred and universal, Baba Ambedkar has gone into discussion on that. And he has made it very clear to us as to what does it mean for something to be sacred and universal. It cannot be touched. We cannot violate the sacred principle of Maitri. We can have arguments. We can go on discussion, and we can go on understanding each other, because that's only possible through communication. And the communication of course can lead to certain conflict, but we should be on the guards, because the ultimate principle is to love people, I would say, universally and unconditionally, because our sense of Maitri is conditional. Because certain people do something good to us, we practice Maitri with them. If certain people do bad to us, we cultivate not Maitri to them. You see what I'm saying? So it has to be unconditional, it has to be universal, and it has to be sacred, because that's what is our need as a human being, to love another human beings. So I think if we follow this discussion, let me summarize and recapitulate what we have studied today, that the morality is not necessarily the essence of religion. It's not the essence of religion. It is not necessary for religion to have morality within them. It's as Baba Ambedkar says, that it's like occasional and it's casual. But for the Dhamma, for the Buddha's Dhamma, the morality is the root, is the essence. Without it, Dhamma is not Dhamma. And it's like a god in the other religion. So you understand the way other people in the other religion, how that respect for and devotion for God, the same is here, but it's for morality, for Maitri. So we have seen that morality is the essence of Dhamma. Without it, there is no Dhamma, and morality is Dhamma arises from the direct necessity for man to love another man, and it's good for us to love other human beings. But mere morality is not enough, and Baba Ambedkar has gone into the discussion on why it must be sacred and universal, and he has given the arguments that why morality has to be pavitra and why morality has to be universal. Because the first thing is that the society needs to protect the weak, and the weak doesn't mean that they are not beneficial to society. The fit or the violent people not necessarily are best fitted for the society, best fit for the society. What is needed is the protection of people, of the best people. And therefore the sense of morality was imposed on those who consider themselves to be the fittest or the strongest. And therefore, the morality has to be universal, because it cannot be confined to the group, because the groups are antisocial. They are against society. They are against letting one human being relate to another human beings without the barrier of group, caste, nation, whatever. It's a direct necessity of one human being to love another human being. And if there is a morality within the group morality is ultimately antisocial, and therefore, because it creates a different set of standards and models for different groups of people, and when we have this different set of standards and models for different different group of people, it necessarily leads to conflict, and an individual cannot have a consistent mind. Our visions get destroyed, distorted, our minds get compromised if we are just confined to the group interests or the group morality. And therefore, the morality has to be universal, because if the individual has to survive the onslaught of the group interest and what is called the struggle for existence, the we have to have safeguard the individual, and that is only possible when the individual is having the common models to practice, and when the fraternity is universally made effective, then only the individual will survive, then only the liberty will survive. Without fraternity, there cannot be liberty for any human being. So what is fraternity? To summarize, it is nothing but another name for brotherhood of men, which is another name for morality, which is another name for Dhamma. This is why the Buddha preached that Dhamma is morality, and as Dhamma is sacred, so is morality. Dhamma is sacred for us. So morality has to be sacred for us. And I think it's a very profound sort of the understanding of religion and Dhamma we have seen in this book number 4, in the very first part, when Baba Ambedkar has talked about the religion and Dhamma, and in the part 1 that we have just finished studying, which was titled as Religion and Dhamma, where Baba Ambedkar had discussed in 6 subsections. What is religion? We have seen it. How Dhamma differs from religion? We have seen it. The purpose of religion and the purpose of Dhamma, we have seen it. 4th, morality and religion we saw today. Dhamma and morality we studied today. Mere morality is not enough. It must be sacred and universal. As I always say, that with the Buddhism, we have to have a patience. Sometimes we have to slow down our reading. Sometimes we have to read it again and again. Sometimes we have to understand, a single word. Sometimes we have to understand a single sentence. Like, for example, Dhamma is morality. It's a profound sentence. You pick up a sentence and you think about it. That's one way of studying the Buddha and Dhamma. You just sometimes don't study the book in toto. You pick up a phrase at random, and you just reflect on it. You just study it. Morality is the essence of Dhamma. How many words? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. But enough for us to reflect. Without it, there is no Dhamma. So verse number 5 can be an effective phrase for us to reflect, for us to think about it, for us to see how we can bring the changes in our lives. For example, see how we can bring certain practices in our lives so that we can be transformed. So I think with this, I will end the class here today and open up the class for any further discussion or comments or anything that you would like to share.
Sir, in verse number 35.
Verse number 35, okay.
Group setup prevents individual. This one.
Yes. The group setup prevents an individual from acquiring consistency of mind, which is possible only when society has common ideals, common models, right? So see,
my question is, if we imagine it, let's imagine it, we are creating some common ideals, common models, and that too we are visualizing in the globe, in somewhere in the
Umesh bhai, your connection is gone. I am not able to hear you. Are others able to hear Umesh bhai?
No.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Umesh bhai, you were inaudible. We couldn't hear you. Okay, we will wait for Umesh. Meanwhile, anybody would like to say anything or comment? Subhash.
Yes, judging to all.
Jai Bhim.
Yeah. What I could understand, can give more clarification. So far as morality should be sacred in order to protect the weak. Second one, to integrate the society or to stop the conflict among different social groups. So morality should have common rule of code of conduct. Third one, to safeguard the growth of individual. That is why morality should be kept under sacred group. So this is what I could understand so far as three factors are concerned. If I am not, please correct me,
Perfect.
or you can further elaborate. And so far as examples are concerned, I was reading recently about how Dr. Ambedkar, Baba Sahab, has tried to integrate the scattered society under the one banner, that is Hindu Code Bill. Under Hindu Code Bill, he tried to frame a common code of conduct for all Hindus in a broader banners, even Buddhist, Sikh, Zen also. So this was an attempt. This was an attempt to organize the society, because northern Indian Hindus are following something else, South Indians are following something else, East, West something. So there was disorganized society. So Hindu Code Bill was an attempt to come forward a common moral code of conduct. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
No, perfect, perfect. I think this understanding is perfect, Subhash. Good. See here, the only very good understanding. The only point is that we do not have these models as a dictatorial models. They emerge from the necessity of a human being to be good, to love other human beings. These are not the models or standard models. They are not rigid models. They are also evolving models, isn't it? So I think
Yes.
what's important here for us to understand that the morality is not against the interest of anybody, because certain people, there are moral policing, there is a moral policing going on in the society, that particular people should be like this, the women should be like this, they should wear this, they should wear that. You see, they should pray in this manner, they should not pray in this manner, they should enter this temple, they should not enter this temple. You see what I'm saying? So they call it morality, but it's not morality, it's a dictatorship. It's an imposition of my ideas on you, on my look, standard on you. What Baba Sahib Ambedkar is getting, that there is a universal standard for human beings to relate with each other.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Because this not, the morality cannot be confined to just one country or one community or to one linguistic group. It has to be universal. And there is a beautiful word in
Yes, it has to be
universal and boundless. It cannot be bounded. It has to be boundless. And that's why there is a word in Buddhism called apariman. The metta, karuna, mudita, upeka, these four qualities are called limitless, apariman, boundless. They cannot be hindered. If they are hindered, they are not metta. If our metta is confined to just a few group of people or whatever, it's not the metta, it's not the karuna, it's not the mudita, it's not the upeka. So I think what you are saying, that's why in this light we have to understand the so-called much often talked about notions of liberty, equality, and fraternity, at least in our society these days. We have to understand them in terms of the spiritual, this word I don't like at all. in terms of what, how we can be better live our life as human beings, how we can attain to the basic humanness.
Thank you.
Right. Sumesh, if you're back and if your internet connection is stable, you can go on to what you want to talk about, or other people, if they have anything to share, anything to comment, please go on.
Am I audible now, sir?
You're audible, but your connection is a little bit shaky. But go on. We will try to follow you up. Why? All right. We can take Umesh Bhai's question another class. Anybody? Because we got another 4 or 5 minutes left. If not, Umesh Bhai. Okay, then I think we come to the end of a class today. If there is nothing on your mind at this moment, then we will end up the class here, and we begin to study the part number 2 of the book number 4 in the upcoming classes. This is going to be more interesting because it's a very interesting, thought-provoking stuff that we are going to deal with in the next classes. So thank you so much for joining in today, and see you next week.